Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Sports Insiders. I am Denzel Snipes, and this is the. Oh wait, I'm pointing the wrong direction. There he is, right there. Sean Russell, the MLB NFL sports agent himself. This is the Sports Insiders. We have a bit to talk. Well, not a lot to talk about. I know the NBA Finals Game 6 is coming up, so just bear with us. Give us about 10, 15 minutes. We'll be out of here, and I'm trying to enjoy the game myself. But before we get started, just want to invite everybody to follow us on all of our socials. We're on Facebook at Sideline Sports Network. Also on we're at sidelinesportsnet.com. That's our website where we publish all our articles, and we have footage from not only shows but also interviews that we've done when we cover live events. We've covered Super Bowl week and things of that sort. Also, all of our great shows, the Sideline Sports show, which is back on the air. We had a show on Tuesday, and then also Confidential Wednesdays. The Gauntlet Season 5 will resume here in about a month, I would say, but leading up to the NFL season. But feel free to go on our YouTube on Sideline Sports and look up any previous episodes so that you can get a feel for how the show runs and everything. Also, our guys over at First and 56, the Indianapolis Colts show, Ken's Pat Talk. That's our New England Patriots show. Terrible Talk. That's our Pittsburgh Steelers show. And also, of course, shout out to our guy, Dave DeRocher and Walt Thurman III, Hawk Talk. That is our Seattle Seahawks show. So feel free to go on all of our shows. Live chat is always there. You comment, we put them on the screen. We engage with the audience. Everything's genuine here. So follow us on Sideline Sports on X as well. We are also on X. So Facebook, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Also on YouTube as well, and then also our website. So before we get started, how's everything been, Sean?
No, everything's good. Everything's going good.
Awesome, awesome. So, just like the title suggests, Desmond Bane was traded from the Grizzlies to the Orlando Magic. And so the trade details, he was traded to the Orlando. So he's heading in your direction there, Sean, for guard Kentavious Caldwell Pope, guard Cole Anthony, 4 unprotected first round picks, and 1 first round pick swap. So before we get started, as far as the intricate details, did did the Magic give up too much for Desmond Bane?
Yeah, so I mean that's when anytime there's 4 first rounders involved, I think automatically people jump like, oh my
Yeah,
God, like that's a lot for a player. Similarly to what happened last offseason when Mikal Bridges got moved for, I think it was actually 5 first rounders that the
5.
Nets
It
gave
was
up to
5 of them. Yeah.
Brooklyn. And everybody's like, wow, what's going on? But what I don't think a lot of the casual fans really look at or hear much about is there's been a lot of changes in how the NBA salary cap works. There's no longer a hard cap. It's a soft cap, kind of like baseball. There's
Hmm.
different aprons. Um, and because of those aprons, you you sometimes have to give these extra picks to make sure not only that you stay under them, but you don't get penalized for being over them.
Exactly.
So as much as it seems like it's an overpay, it's also a way to not give up more players on your current roster, which is
Exactly.
exactly what the Knicks did with Bridges. They said, no, we're going to be a little top heavy here. We'd rather give you extra picks, which probably fall between 20 and 30. And that will probably be the same case for Orlando for the next couple seasons. So how much value do we put in those picks, especially based on draft history? I think you can go back and maybe 20 guys over the history of the draft have really been superstars in that range. You've got a lot of good role players, guys that have, niched out roles like Draymond Green famously is a second round pick. But those guys are rare. It's usually in the NBA, the bus rate's high, but it's that 1 through 15 range that usually makes the superstar impact.
True.
The 20 to 30 is more your, maybe he makes an all-star game or two, but he's also not going to make your team lose. He's going to be, that Aaron Gordon, that Tobias Harris,
Right.
type of guy where they fill a role, but they never really hit like that superstardom.
Right.
Um, so
Every now and again, you can probably depend on one of those guys to get a couple of victories if your number one guy is out.
like I think 2020 Tyrese Maxey was like the 29th pick But again, he's an all-star. I wouldn't put him in that superstar level of point guard. All-star point guard, absolutely. Superstar point guard. So, and how many years did it take him to get there? So it's like, what are you losing? But more so, they gave up those picks because of these aprons, which we'll touch on more here in a second. But like you talked about, the players involved, the cap in this was interesting as well because the Grizzlies took on a bad contract in Caldwell Pope. He's
Yeah.
got 2 years, almost 43 million remaining. Cole Anthony has 2 years, 26 million remaining. So the Grizzlies took on about 34 million annually in this trade. Bane makes 31
He was
annually.
31
So
annually. Yep.
the Magic actually shaved some off their cap by doing this. But again, they added the extra picks to not have to throw in an Anthony Black, a Jonathan Isaac. When you're going top heavy like this, you need to keep your bench intact.
Hmm.
It's the same move the Knicks made last year. Now, it's a risk, right? Because you go top heavy, you're not going to have a lot of development now, at least younger wise, over these next 4 drafts.
Right.
But the hope is that these guys that you've already put in place, Banchero, Wagner, that these guys continue to develop, now develop more with Bane, and you put something together like the Pacers have done here. They kind of dropped Siakam in there once Halliburton started to hit that all-star superstar level. I think that's what the Magic are doing now here with Paolo, dropping in a veteran like Bane, who's not only proven shooter, but he fits what the Magic do, which is physicality.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. With one thing, and I talked with John Shear about this, is typically whenever because this is a bit of a haul for a guy who at best was the number two guy to John Morant's number one, you know, but this is something that you would give up for a number one guy. You know what I'm saying? Like you think he's your missing piece. You know what I'm saying? And you're in win now mode. For a number one guy, sure, I understand. But going into the intricate details here, so the fourth first is a number 15 in this upcoming draft, a 2026 that can be swapped with the Suns or the Wizards, and a 2028, one in 2028 and one in 2030. Now, there's something not being talked about with in 2029. You want to expound on that one?
Yeah, so this is something that's kind of flown under the radar because everybody looks at the 4 first that the Magic have given up here. The Magic actually got in this deal a pick swap with the Grizzlies. Now, hypothetically, we're saying the Magic are going to have a lower pick than the Grizzlies in that draft. The
Hmm.
Grizzlies would have to be one of the worst teams in the league and picking first or second in that draft for that pick to be protected. So it looks like the Magic actually, at least for the last part of this 4 year, giving up first rounders, they'll actually move up in 2029 when they could be right on the cusp of who knows what Paulo looks like 3, 4 seasons from now. They could be either right on the cusp or maybe they've won one title and now you get to add a lottery pick to a title team. So
Yeah.
that's an under the radar thing that hasn't been mentioned. And because the protection is only on the 1 or 2 pick for Memphis, there's a high chance that that pick ends up going to Orlando, and Memphis ends up picking between 20 and 30, being a bad team in 2029.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty insane right there. So moving on to the NBA cap aprons, and you mentioned it earlier. Basically, how one. Well, you mentioned it in your last commentary, but let's see. There's two aprons in general. The first apron takes up 126% of the cap. The second takes up 134. Um, you have some teams that operate over the cap. You want to go into detail with the restrictions with the first apron?
Yeah, so if you hit the first one, you can't use trade exemptions, which is something, it's a little more rare these days than it used to be because injured players aren't getting moved as often. But when you trade a player for a draft pick or trade an expiring player for cash, what you get back on top of that draft pick, on top of that cash, is the difference in a trade exemption. Usually somewhere falls between like $3 and $7 million usually.
Right.
And then you could use that as cash in a different trade to make up the salary for a trade with a different team for a player you want later. You have 1 year to use it from the time you get it. It does not have to be used, but you have 12 months to use it once you've acquired it in a deal. Now, if you hit that first apron, you can no longer use trade exemptions. You could still pile them up. Maybe you drop under the first apron, but you won't be able to use them in a move.
Okay.
Um, You also cannot trade for a player of lesser salary or no player at all while being at the first apron. So that means in this deal, if the Magic were at the first, or excuse me, if Memphis was at the first apron, this would have had been an even 34-34 swap. But because neither team was at the apron, it was okay to have the little off in salary. It could have been even, probably done it without Cole Anthony if they wanted to give up even more picks,
True.
because none of them were at the apron going into this deal. Now, coming out of this deal, the Magic immediately were over the first apron. So they made two domino moves to release two team options on Gary Harris and Corey Joseph, which was about $10 million, which dropped them right back below,
Right.
which gives them back access to the MLE, which we'll talk about that in a second.
Hmm.
That's another one of the restrictions. You can't take on players that are bought out higher than the mid level, which this year I believe was set at 13 and a half.
Mm.
And now teams can split that up, but that means any team that's over the exemption, if that player is not bought out higher than the 13 and a half, they can't touch him.
Right.
And cannot take on money in trades. No cash coming your way in trades to help you with your solution.
Mm.
So there's and that so then that's just the first one. The second one gets even more restrictive, but we'll talk about that in a second. You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, basically, this whole thing is preventing teams from becoming the New York Yankees of the '90s, really. But no, it's really great because it keeps the playing field as level as possible. Um, but the no cash on trades actually applies to both first and second apron.
Yeah, so second apron where it gets tighter, like you said, no cash like the first apron, but also, and this is where it gets no multiplayer trades if you're at the second apron. So you're looking at one for one or draft pick for draft pick swaps, and you have no access to the mid level exception. So you're really handicapped in free, not only free agency, but if you've given up, say, multiple picks like the Magic, and now you've hit the second apron, you're just kind of stuck with what you got, especially if it's not working. Same with
Yeah,
the Knicks right now. They're kind of both these teams have kind of strapped in and said, "Hey, we think these rosters are good to 2028, 2029, and if they're not, shit, everybody's getting fired."
yeah. Pretty much, they are where they're at. I mean, given this scenario, the only scenario um, where they would win the championship is if they get a superstar in a draft that happens to exceed expectations. We're talking about your, you know, 15 to 30 guy or maybe below, and he has a Linsanity type,
Yep.
thing.
Impact.
But
Yep.
but his goes way further than Jeremy Lin's did. Other than that, yeah, you're right. If they don't, get to the Eastern Conference Championship, if they don't get to the NBA Finals or anything, then right around 2029, 2030, you probably would have to blow it up. So, man, it's crazy because I don't believe in championship windows because I've seen teams come out of nowhere and win the title. Think Texas Rangers 2023.
Yep.
Um, and they were a 90 loss team 2 years prior to that. So I mean, who knows? But I mean, the East is definitely getting tougher. You know what I mean? We talked the other day about how it was like kind of Cleveland and then Boston, then New York, then everybody else, and look who's in the finals, Indiana. You know what I mean? Now this does give a team like the Magic hope. It's just the thing is well, the difference between them and Cleveland is Spider was the number one guy on the Jazz. Then he went to Cleveland and made them better. The question
Yep.
is Desmond Bane, is he going to be, the lead guy? Is it going to be him or is it going to be Benchero? You know what I mean?
Right. And I think that's, I don't think this is the Magic, raising any bells on Paulo's game because the offense around him in terms of spreading the floor has just not been there. And I don't think adding Bane is going to necessarily solve their 3-point shooting solutions. They need to grab at least one more in the draft. And because they have the full MLE this year, I expect them to maybe split it among two players, both, 3 and D type guys. Because they can't do the same route they went last year, which was add KCP, one shooter, and expect him to solve all your shooting woes. It's
Right.
just not going to happen when you're playing with Wagner and Banchero, and you want those guys really down in the block. They can
Mhm.
shoot as well, but those are not guys you want pulling up, having to carry the ball up all the time. I don't think Bane becomes the number one, but I could see where he's definitely the number two to Paulo because Wagner ever since his injury. And this is something else that's not been talked about, but he did it in the playoffs this year. He did it in playoffs last year. He's developed this double hitch on his 3-point shot, and his percentage has just plummeted.
Oh,
Post his injury. But if you look at the film, there's some hitch he's developed on this 3-point shot. It's completely different than when he's driving the ball, when he's pulling up from a 2 point. There's some little hitch, and it's clear on the film. And I don't know. He even said in an interview recently that he's working on it this summer. But I think kind of like Nick Anderson in 4 free throws. It's in his head at this point. So you don't know when a player kind of recovers from that.
yeah. No, absolutely. Well, I did say 15 minutes, and that is our show. Tune in to all of our great shows on the Sideline Sports Network. Once again, we're on Facebook, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. We're on YouTube as well. We're on YouTube. Check us out. Hit the like and subscribe button for all updates and all new episodes. And until then, I'm the sniper himself, Denzel Snipes. That's Sean Russi. We'll see you all next week.